Good morning, good afternoon, happy first trading day of 2026, and started it off on a green note today. Now, as always, I'll be breaking down every single trade that I took this morning to lock in a green day to start the year, and I'm going to walk through step by step how I define pullbacks using a simple exponential moving average strategy. So let's go ahead and break it down. Today was honestly a little bit of a slower day after the new year. There wasn't a whole lot moving out there in small cap land today. Pre-market was a little bit dead. You came into the open, the leading gapper was like 60 something percent. So there really wasn't a whole lot out there happening. And so you came back, people are still hungover from New Year's Eve, but we still made it happen today, thankfully, nonetheless. Now, going into market open today, one of the leading gappers was this CHOW. And man, I thought this thing looked so good going into the bell. Now, it was a Hong Kong name, but you can't fault it for that because the Chinese names have been very hot the last few weeks. So, we came into market open today on CHOW. And, first thing from pre-market is I noticed here we had this big area of supply overhead. And you're going to look at the entry, and I'm going to look at the entry too and say, oh my gosh, what was I doing? And I fully agree with that. I told myself today that I could only wash this off a pullback and I couldn't play a breakout. And what did I do? I played a breakout to start the morning. Now a small size loss to start the day. This has these lower highs going into the bell, then gets breaking out to the upside over VWAP going into market open. And so I know that I can't play a breakout up into this 113 area because we have a heavy overhead supply. Into the 113 area of supply, and it pulls back. Now, as it pulls back, I try to take it off that pullback at 110, risking off the 90 MA for the continuation back higher because it pulls back, and we see here it starts to find a little bit of a buyer here off these pullbacks. I try to take it because these opening breakouts have been so fruitful lately. I'm trying to take it for the curl back higher up into the top of this candle. I don't get it. And so I take a small loss to start the morning. And while it's unfortunate, it's my first loss at the open in a very long time. And last week was so fruitful. Even earlier this week was so fruitful with these opening trades. It's just the fact of if it fails, it fails. Move on to the next setup. And so this one didn't work out. In hindsight, I really liked the setup, but we did have heavy overhead supply here on Chow. And looking back, maybe I shouldn't have taken this, but hindsight 2020. So that was the game plan. I'll show you my pre-market watch list here as well. I even said, look at this. I was going to watch it over 98 for the range to 113. Yeah, and it tests that 113 out of the bell and, rejects, take a pullback. So, rookie mistake. Going on from that, though, the day, I didn't take a loss after that. So let's get into the good stuff here so you don't think I'm a fool. Moving over to BNAI. This thing was an incredibly fruitful name today for us. And I actually went 3 for 3 on it today. This thing was extremely fun to trade and really the most obvious stock out there today. Now, leading up into this point, there really wasn't a whole lot happening. We had PABS not do a whole lot. It was sort of stuck sideways to market open. We had, of course, other gappers and everything start to fade after the bell. And so BNAI, we see it sit here sort of on low volume here after market open. Then it gets just blasting through the highs. Now, it gets blasting through the highs. Now, of course, what I know at this point is we are extended away from VWAP and the 90 MA. And so I need to see price pullback and retest to confirm. And so I'm watching those pullbacks here. And as we know, we want to see price close off of VWAP and the 90 MA to decrease that downside risk, limit the downside potential. So we have the highest chance of course, success in our favor because, again, we want that proper risk to reward. And so I see price pull back underneath this past candle's low right here off of VWAP and the 90 MA. As soon as buyers step back in here, you see it tries to pull back on this little break of this past low. I know it's a bit hard for you to see. Let me get zoomed in a little bit here. And so as price pulls back here, it drops beneath this past candle's low. We quickly see it get bought back up. That's my entry. I enter on the pullback there. Stops go underneath VWAP and the 90 MA, which were right beneath price in line with each other. For the range back through highs. Now, I know we had range here today based off the daily time frame, which I'll show you here. And we had range here to the 200 moving average at the time, which, as you can see, was sitting right here about 345. And so I knew we had range here to the 200 moving average sitting right about 345. And then past that, I knew we had range to the next daily high, which we can see around 420 and 440, right? And so knowing that, I know we have range here, right? And so I'm able to take it here with a pretty solid entry, to be honest with you. I mean, I take it at 304, 303 actually was the fill, risking off of VWAP, so I've got roughly 10 cents of risk, and I know that we have range to about 345. Okay, so cool, I've got 40 cents of range, and I have 10 cents of risk. You can't, that's perfect. Awesome, cool. All right, so I take it off the pullback there as it confirms off of VWAP in the 90 MA, and I get a nice move through the high of day. Now, of course, as this confirms the break of this next candle's high, look at this. First candle to make a new high. As soon as that happens, we have this first candle to make a new high. My stop loss is then raised to the bottom of that breakout candle. At that point, this trade is completely guaranteed profit because the stops are above entry and I've already got some trims. Right, so at that point, we're cooking, we're clean. Now, as this makes a move higher up into that level of resistance, which we talked about at 345, I'm trimming in position to lock in those profits. And as sellers come in, momentum starts to dry. I take my full profit up here into the highs. All right, perfect call, because I see a double top get put in off the high here. At that point, I know this thing is probably done for now. And I can wait for pullbacks, or I can wait for a breakout higher. Now, price did break out higher there a little bit later this morning, but it was a little bit extended away from VWAP, so I didn't take it here, and I sat back and waited. Now, we were tied off the 90 MA, and that really wasn't a bad spot for an entry. You can see it actually broke out. It pulled back, confirmed. That could have been an awesome entry off the 90 MA to get that move higher. But that's not where I played it. And so I'm watching to see it put in place a bit of a tightening wedge or some sort of descending channel to play out of. And that's exactly what happened here. And I was able to trade this to a T because as I see it pull back, what I know from this morning is all day, this held off of the 9 and 20 EMA. Not a single time did it break beneath. The whole way up, this move here, of course, held off the 9. It pulls back, consolidates, and holds off the 20, and then gets legging up higher. Really finds a big buyer there off the 20 EMA. So now I know that I can watch pullbacks off those moving averages because it's respected it. And I had somebody in chat ask me this morning, how do you know which moving average to watch for price to hold off of? Well, it's whichever one it's confirmed in the past, whichever one it's held off of in the past. Right? So there's not this set, answer of, okay, it has to hold off the 9, it has to hold off the 20, it has to hold off the 50. It's whatever it has respected and trailed off of in the past. So, we can't sit here and gamble and say, well, I think it's going to hold off the 9, I think it's going to hold off the 20. We want to make decisions in the market based off of what it actually has already done. Let the market show you its cards first. And it did back here, showing that it found buyers off the 9 and 20. Real tight consolidation off the 9. I take a pullback right there off the 9 EMA. Look at this. Entry at 365, risking off this past candle's low at 359. And I get a little bit of a move back here. You can see I was looking for that move back up into top of that wedge, which I got there. Then as price pulls back underneath the 9, it tests the 20 EMA, puts in place a doji. That doji signals indecision, so I know that as it's pulling back, sellers are a little bit indecisive. And so sellers here are looking at this, your short sellers are looking at this saying, oh, my risk reward isn't too great here. We're right over that previous high of day. So the sell side begins to, again, get weaker and weaker and pulls back off the 20 EMA. And so now we're waiting for buyers to step back in and take control. And so as the next candle breaks that recent candle's high, we have that first candle again to make a new high. Look at this. It breaks that doji's high. That confirms buyers are stepping back in, so I take a re-entry. So I grab the entry there, and guess what? My stop loss goes where? At the bottom of the doji candle, because now I know that I need price to maintain, that momentum. I need to see it leg back up. I want to see it continue to move higher. So again, I caught it from 360. Stop loss goes down here at 350, and I got to move to 380. And so the reason why I took the exit here, you can see I didn't take the exit on the first part of the move. I took it here on the second part, the second candle, the high, is because per my exit strategy, and this is how I just trade every single day of the week. It doesn't matter what the setup is, what the price is, what the strength is, anything. I trade everything the same exact way. That's just my system. Where this candle tries to make to a new high here, see how it breaks the new high? It breaks from 387, 388, 392. And then what happens is it instantly rejects after breaking out. Anytime that happens, that tells me that price is not ready to move higher, and I take a full exit every single time. And sure, in this case, I left a little bit of profit on the table. You can see it ended up legging higher, and I left some money on the table. But anytime that happens, it is my full take profit every single day of the week. And by trading that way, I was able to take 1, 2, and 3 profitable trades on this today. So I traded it quite well. Now, after that, all I really traded aside from that was PABS, and I actually played this quite well too, but it was a little bit choppy today. Now, I tried to play it back here for a squeeze up through its highs, and it was break even on this to start this morning. You can see we have this very, very tight range. And I tried to take a pullback early off the 9 and 20 EMAs because price seemed to have been respecting it all morning, as we can see here. And I wanted to see if this gets squeezing up through these highs where I would then add on the break of that high. It never happened. So overall break even there to start, but then it actually reclaims, and look at this. It gets breaking out. Notice how we have this, again, confirmed high of day. It breaks out later in the morning, it pulls back and confirms, and was able to take it for a nice little play. And so what you can actually see here, we had supply sitting here overhead, right? So we have overhead supply sitting from 230 to about 237, right back into that previous high of day where we previously found sellers, right? And so as price breaks above and it pulls back to confirm, this becomes an area of then demand, right? And so now I'm looking for pullbacks, as buyers start to step back in off those pullbacks, and it was able to do something here. Although, nothing too crazy. I was able to get something here. We had range on the daily chart. Of course, the daily here was just nonsensical. This had a 1 for 100 reverse split. So the daily here, wasn't able to get a whole lot here. I didn't really have a whole lot of conviction either. It was a little bit spready, which is surprising considering share price, but nonetheless, took it here after it found that the buyers coming off the pullbacks, took it there off 238, got to move to about 246. Of course, as it begins to fail, once again, stuck to my system, as you can see here. Sold up into the previous high of day. As it rejects off the high, I take my full exit. BNAI was the most fruitful of the morning using that simple EMA strategy based on whatever price is respected in the past. We can expect it to then respect going forward. So that pretty much sums up the morning. Very good day today. Hopefully you guys had an awesome day to start the new year. I know I'm happy with it, but I just wish it was a little bit more fruitful. It seems like last Friday after Christmas was a little bit more fruitful, but people are still hungover, I suppose, from their partying on Wednesday, Thursday. So that being said, morning recap. Let me know in the comments below how you did today. As always, make sure to subscribe for daily content just like this if you did learn something. And make sure to claim your 7-day free trial to trade with me in real time every single day and get alerts, education, watch list, chat room access, scanners, news, our journaling app, Momentum AI, and so much more. Again, that is down in the description below. Lock in. I'll see you back on Monday for an awesome week ahead. And let's go ahead and crush the rest of 2026.